Ladies and gentlemen, meet LandMonk. All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Lance Rush Mills, here with LandMonk. I'm joined with my co-founder, Kevin Corbello, here today. He'll be joining us for some of the Q&A, so thank you for having me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So LandMonk, we are aiming to create the simplest way to pay and collect rent online. So what we're doing right now is we're building a web platform for landlords to collect rent online and tenants to pay their rent online. Our core users are landlords who self-manage 1 to 5 units in size, so single family all the way up to some smaller multifamily apartment buildings. Myself, Lance Rush Mills, I'm in charge of the business and sales side of things. My background is CBRE, commercial real estate development, as well as brokerage. Kevin is in charge of all the product design. He has the coding technology skills, as well as the UX UI design components. So really the problem that we're aiming to solve is the hassle that is paying rent online. So as of right now, the predominant way rent is paid across the US is with check, which in the age of technology is a very lengthy process, and there's a lot of holes in it as of right now. So the landlord has to physically go collect a check, make sure it's paid on time, has to record it if they own multiple properties or multiple tenants. It's a hassle for the bookkeeping and accounting purposes to make sure that their rent is coming in on time. And likewise for the tenants, everything else that the tenant does as a consumer is online, whether it's paying for their other bills, whether it's shopping. The tenant does really expect to pay their rent online. So the problem that we're aiming to solve is bridging that gap between tenants and landlords to be able to effortlessly pay and collect rent online. So right now, there's over 17 million landlords that self-manage rental properties 1 to 5 units in size. And likewise, the consumer demands on both the landlord and tenant side, people want to pay rent online. People want an easy solution where they can collect rent and integrate immediately with their taxes. The days of paying by check are truly over. So as of right now, you can take a look at the competitive landscape. There are a lot of traditional property management softwares out there. So what these softwares do is focus on comprehensive property management. So really more on the advanced side of software that doesn't apply to a small-time landlord who owns one single-family home or a small duplex or triplex. Really what these softwares are tailored towards larger institutional apartment buildings. What we're aiming to do is really have a very simple interface that allows rent collection as well as some basic tax and payment integration for landlords. So it really doesn't go into the really heavy analysis or really heavy feature sets that require an institutional type property. So as of right now, we are developing our MVP and will be finished here in the month of November. We already have 50 landlords who are pre-subscribed to sign up to our software as soon as it's live. In some surveys, we have 87% of millennials do want to pay their rent online, and 2/3 of baby boomers, in fact, also want to collect their rent online. As of right now, we're self-funded to date. We've built our MVP for all-in costs of about $20,000, and we have a pretty straightforward revenue model. So we charge $9 per month per rent processed on the platform. So you can see with what we are charging with acquiring 5% of our target market, which is the Southern California counties, that give us about 125,000 landlords on the platform, which allows us to scale up rather nicely in a final form product. User acquisition, I won't get into the full nitty-gritty on here, but really we have 3 different prongs of advertising, partnerships, and content generation. So advertising, we have to stay out of the lanes that bigger competitors are doing. So we can't go in directly into online advertising and traditional channels. So what we're going to do instead is really target niche real estate websites and real estate online influencers who are producing content in those arenas. Likewise, we want to partner with different associations that are tailored towards real estate. For example, the Orange County Apartment Association, Bigger Pockets, Inman, Micro, and all these other larger real estate providers is really getting in, being their service provider and partnering with them for the content. And the third prong is us producing our own content for ways, tips, online, useful resource for landlords and tenants to really automate the process. So with that in mind, I'd like to thank everybody for listening to the presentation today. I'll invite up Kevin to answer any questions if there are any.
So we're going to take a few minutes to hopefully answer some asks. Is there anything that you would like to know from the audience that we can get feedback on, like, is my model correct, or do you know a good network to connect into? Terrible examples, but do you have it?
Absolutely. So our big asks right now are, one, what are some creative ways, in your guys' opinion, to really acquire users? So we have a lot of ideas we've already had, but would love to get your ideas if you have any creative methodologies behind that. Two, what are some great ways to create some strategic partnerships with some of the associations or companies that we've mentioned we're trying to target would be the biggest help for us right now.
All right. So let's take about 5 minutes to figure that out, and we will come back together in 5 minutes. All right, so we can start to bring the attention back towards the front here. I only have one microphone, so if you have a question, just kind of raise your hand and I'll make sure to kind of keep an order for it. But to let us begin, tell us a little bit about how the app functions really quickly. You download it, what is kind of the function process of it?
Absolutely. So as of right now, it's exclusively online. So it's very similar to like a Credit Karma experience, if anyone uses Credit Karma here. So basically you log in to the website, you can log in on your phone as well. Not through a mobile app currently, but you can still log in, it's all mobile friendly. As a landlord, you would just quickly add your property, your tenant, start collecting rent. And for the tenant, you log in, you're already assigned a property, and you just click a button, pay your rent, pay with credit card, ACH, or debit card.
Hey, Sam here. Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
A couple of questions for you. So the first one, just for confirmation, the landlord is going to pay the fee of $9 a month, right?
Yes, that's correct. And the way we've structured the fee is we're not actually charging like a monthly reoccurring sign-up fee. The money is taken out of the transaction. So you're never actually hit with a bill as a landlord. You just receive the $9 less off your rent.
Okay. And the value proposition is centered around facilitating the payment. So the core of the value prop is that transaction, that financial transaction.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, so some of the things that came up during the table discussion is that we know a lot of different products and solutions that could be direct or indirect competitors. So names like Venmo and Zelle and other bank-specific payment platform have been used on.
Yep.
But we're also thinking that maybe your value proposition could be to provide additional tools to landlords, whatever it is, whether it is around maintenance, accounting, forecasting, whatever it could be. And then that is a way to kind of to generate revenue through the facilitation of the payment. But we're, I guess, maybe I shouldn't say the word concerned, but we're thinking that maybe it's a harder value proposition to sell, to say, hey, we're just going to facilitate the payment for $9 per payment, per property, per month, when we know that Zelle and other platforms can do it for free. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest indirect competitor we have is Zelle, Venmo, and some of those other processors. The biggest thing with them is they are peer-to-peer processors, so they're not meant for business transactions. Although you can absolutely do it, and people do it. We do realize that. So really what we're aiming to achieve there is on those other services, where it is specifically business account. So it's approved for business transactions, and it goes into specific business accounts and has those accounting functionalities with it for late payments, for automatic billing, which aren't features of our Venmo or Zelle. But absolutely, I mean, I think we can definitely continue to expand upon those value-add accounting services to more of a differentiation.
Matt, right here.
Hey there, I'm Matt. Nice presentation, guys. This isn't my question, but are you charging transaction fee on top of that $9?
No, we're not.
Okay, so that includes the whole transaction.
That includes the whole transaction fee, yeah.
So just on your question on help acquiring users, who are you trying to acquire? Are you going to the landlord and then you're assuming that they're going to push their tenants onto this thing, or are you going to the tenant and they're saying, hey, I want to use it? Like, how are you trying to acquire your user?
Absolutely. So we're definitely going for both different angles there. So the majority of the landlord has to, at the end of the day, the landlord has to be the one that says, yes, I want to use this product. But we would like to tap into the tenant side as well. And what we would like to do for that is offer a tenant sign-up bonus or referral bonus for signing up their landlord as a way for them to receive money either off their rent or a direct gift card type situation where they refer a landlord to a landlord.
Okay, so maybe advice on how to help that process. So I think you should focus. I think doing both, you actually don't have a very clear message. So focus on one and figure out how to drive the value to that key person. So if it's going after tenants and you're offering them a bonus, cool, do that, and figure out how to shift the product so that them signing up when they don't have their landlord actually provides them value. And then, cool, if they get their landlord to sign up, now both people get some amount of more value, but that, I think if you niche it and really focus down, you can make it a little bit easier sell to kind of both parties.
Perfect, thank you.
I have a question now. What happens if my portion of a rent is $1,000 and I'm not swiping my credit card directly, so there's potentially a higher fee there because I'm not the direct swiper, and I'm just putting in the information on my credit card, I could get charged 3% potentially, and wouldn't that be $30 of credit card transaction fee just for my rent? So wouldn't you be losing $21?
Yeah, so the credit card is an optional payment method that the landlord can choose to add. Typically what we see is if a landlord does want to allow credit card as a convenience for their tenants, they add a surcharge on top of what the rent is. So if your rent was $2,000, they'd add a $30 to $50 surcharge that would cover the credit card fee, purely as another convenient payment method for the tenant to pay. But a majority would be paid through ACH or debit card.
Got it. Right here?
Hey, how you doing? Durante Craig with MIE. So my group was talking about how to get your users up, and I'm not sure how long this would take, but I think a good route you should take is working with some of the universities in the Southern California area, because a lot of us go to universities here, and I have a lot of friends who, one, have problems with housing, and well, that's the biggest problem on most universities, and two, paying rent. I have a friend who was just talking about this last week, how she had to go get a check and come back, and then the office was closed, and they said it was her fault and stuff like that. So there is about 30,000 students on campus, and all of us have to live somewhere. So I think just trying to get into that market with the university would definitely, one, drive your user base up, and it's an easier trial just coming to a university.
Perfect, thank you.
All right here in the middle.
Hey, it's Eric. So my question is, have you considered a possible single-use, single transaction, no extra details? If I went on, put my landlord's info in, and then he got a link, almost like Venmo, like someone paid you money and you click here to claim it. Have you thought of anything like that?
No, we have not, but I do really like the idea, just out hearing that. Thank you.
So I know sometimes I'll pay for solutions. Oh, yes, who has a question? Just raise your hand, Anyone? No? All right. So I sometimes will buy resources for my house, and I charge it back to my landlord. I send them the receipt, and then they give me a deduction off of my rent. Is that something that can be facilitated through your technology?
It is, as of right now. So the landlord and the tenant both have the option to request additional payments. So the tenant can say, submit a request button that's like, you know what, the flooring broke, I had to pay $50 to replace it. They can request from the landlord, submit photos, little description of what's going on, and the landlord can approve it directly through the platform.
Is that also a way of tracking the sort of maintenance history?
It is. It'll track the maintenance history, plug it into the accounting side, and then likewise, the landlord can, deduct directly from that too. They can stop by the property, see something's broken, charge them the fee directly out of it if it exceeds the security deposit.
Hi, Brittany here. I just had a question, I'm not too sure if you mentioned it. So is one of the features, will it notify the user that the rent is due at a certain time? Because that would really help with millennials.
Absolutely. So there's automatic notifications of when your rent is due, so beforehand, when it's due, after it's due, when it's late. And there's also automatic late fees that are built in too, that the landlord can choose to select that automatically apply after a certain date. So if you're 3 days late, 5 days late, you can start to add late fees automatically.
Will you guys also incorporate like a messaging system, the way the renter can talk to the landlord, like message him and tell him, hey, look, I'm out of town, here's some rent for advance, have you incorporated that?
Yeah, so there would be a messaging system with the landlord. You can also log and see all the calls too, all the chat directly too, as well as a full payment history, which is great for legal purposes and disputes if those ever arise, which they do.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
This is something I just haven't seen that I would like to is, it's hard to know how the quality of a landlord is going to be. I found a place once and it was a great place, but I then found the landlord was quite unfortunate. So I wonder if there's a way of potentially, and I don't love this idea as a whole, but conceptually, if there was a way on a month-to-month level of like saying, oh, this was a good month, nothing broke, there's no issues, my landlord was accountable, I was accountable, everyone's happy, 5 stars. But if there is repeatedly issues we can see over time, that maybe this landlord is an unaccountable landlord, and this is something that then future renters will be able to see and potentially hedge against bad rental opportunities.
No, absolutely. I like the idea a lot. We've actually both gone down that a little bit, trying to flesh out the concept similar to that. We've also done the opposite too, where as a tenant, you're really not rewarded for the most part for paying your rent on time or for or being a good tenant. So likewise, we've thought about the opposite solution of trying to build rewards programs or benefits from being a good renter, whether it's discounts from other companies or by building up some sort of renter type score that would be universal across the platform.
Beautiful. In the front?
Hi, I'm Tracy, and I wanted to ask you why LandMonk? Why the name?
So we
A lot of
really...
people are asking that here.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. So we really wanted to differentiate ourselves from the market. Most solutions have the word rent in them or property. We're really trying to be something that's unique, catchy, that really conveys like the peace of mind. And for us, the biggest icon of that was the monk of just kind of just sitting on your property. You're relaxed, everything's going smoothly, and there's nothing to worry about in the world. And that's really the methodology behind it.
I actually know a monk, and I'm not trying to be critical or anything. And he was in the Himalayan mountains for 10 years, and every day he sat and meditated with his eyes closed. So when I think of that, from my perspective, I know no one else knows a monk for 10 years probably, but from my perspective, I'm thinking, oh, he's not watching out for you because his eyes are closed. So, there's probably different connotations you may want to think about.
Absolutely, and definitely down the road, we probably have to go through a point where if the product's going, we're doing raises, that we do consider a professional rebrand that's not just developed by the two of us.
On a positive, if someone needs to charge rent for that space that he's sitting on, he now has a methodology. Forgot your question? All right, one more question. All right, last one right here.
Okay, great presentation. Here's my question. I used to have rentals. The problem was either the renters pay or they don't pay on time, right? That was the biggest problem. Then there's the maintenance issue that we already talked about, right? So when you were talking about incentivizing the early payments and all those things, I think that's where your value proposition might be from a landlord point. Because I wasn't concerned whether I get a check on the first day of month or 5th day of month. They might call and say, hey, I'm out of town, whatever, I was okay with it. But how to incentivize it to pay it on time, that's where I see a value myself. So that's the point.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I think we can really expand upon that value proposition and really figure out better ways to incentivize the tenants to pay early and really give them a reward type of structure for that.
Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, LandMonk. Thank you, everybody.